Do you find it a challenge to get backstory into your novel in a smooth and professional way? I'm Sin Mobley, and I've had more than 30 books published, most of them by major New York houses. I've had a few novels on the USA Today bestseller list as well, so I know a thing or two about trying to get in backstory. Over the last 20 years, I've developed a couple of techniques for approaching the problem, and I'm going to share one of those with you today. If you've ever wished that someone would just show you how to do backstory instead of just complaining about it, then you need to listen to this. Have you ever found yourself writing something like this? As you know, Admiral, that's a clear violation of the rules of engagement. Or, Admiral, that's not a mission for an FA-18 Hornet. We don't have the unrefueled range and can't carry enough ordnance to take out that many targets. Or something like this. That will never work. You've lived here your entire life. You know the clans have hated each other for decades. Or something like, we've been over this so many times. You know my father will never allow our marriage. All of these are examples of what agents, editors, and readers call backstory dump. You're trying to get facts and background into the story for the reader by having the characters tell each other things that they already know. Why is this a problem? Well, for one thing, it lessens the credibility of your characters. They already know things like this. An admiral sending out airstrikes knows what the unrefueled range of a Hornet is. It makes him seem less credible as a military leader to have a junior officer telling him things that he already knows. It also throws your dialogue off. It's just not natural for people to be saying, as you know, so-and-so, such and such like that, unless they're doing it for another purpose, something other than to convey information. For instance, if you wanted to be a smart aleck of some sort, you might say, well, as you know, I'm not exactly 18 feet tall, so I can't reach it. If there's a reason to say, as you know, other than trying to get in background information, then it's fine. But when you're using dialogue as a technique to insert background information or backstory, then it's usually not very effective for those two reasons. Now, there are at least 5 ways to get that backstory in very smoothly and professionally, and I want to go over the first one of those with you. I go over all 5 ways in my book on backstory, but we don't have time to cover all of those right now. So this first way, it's really just a matter of taking what you've put into dialogue and moving it into interior narrative. Look at how we're doing it on this first example. We're going from, as you know, Admiral, that's a clear violation of the rules of engagement, to a reaction. We are showing, not just telling. We're not just getting information in, we are showing a reaction with anger burned in his gut. Taking the shot without warning was a clear violation of the rules of engagement. Now, you may or may not like the writing, but the structural principle of this is very sound. You've gone from a backstory dump to getting the information in, and as an added bonus, you've picked up the reaction of the character and made the reader part of that. The second example works the same way. We've gone from telling the Admiral things that he already knows to understanding and experiencing a reaction from our character. No way a Hornet could pull this off. Now, you'll rewrite that into the voice of your character and use the voice of your character to change the other sentences around to be more indicative of what he or she would say. But you see the principle at work here. You are using that backstory dribble to get in a reaction from your character, so you are simultaneously being very smooth and professional and showing rather than telling, which we all know is a prime tenet of any good storyteller. Okay. And when you see it in practice, you're just going to say, oh my gosh, why didn't I just do that? And the usual reason is that writers may not have enough confidence and trust in their readers. They don't think that they can pull it off well enough that the reader will actually get it and absorb the information that they need to have for the rest of the story to make sense. But that's usually not the case. Your reader is going to stick with you. They want to be in this world, and they are going to pick up information like this just like a sponge. The other thing this does is it makes the reader feel like an insider. They are experiencing this firsthand, this reaction to the information. They're not having to learn anything. They're having the reaction without actually having the knowledge of the technical capabilities ahead of time. And this is very powerful for making your reader part of your story and to have your readers identifying with your world. There's one other huge advantage to doing it this way, and if you've read my book on first pages, then you can probably see what it is. This technique does what I call assumes the world. It assumes that the world you're created is full and completely populated and that your reader is a part of that world. You make that assumption that the reader is a part of this world, and you assume that the reader understands the backstory, and it just comes in naturally through things that happen in the story rather than being a big backstory dump. Well, I hope that's helped. Click below. I'll show you the other 4 techniques I use for getting backstory in, and would love to hear from you. Drop me a line at mail@greyhoundbooks.com. Let me know how this has worked for you. Thanks.